kids already have it. If they are excited, you know they are excited. If they are sad, you know they are sad. They know how to express themselves. So that's skill number 2. When I joined here around 6-7 years back, I saw that banner. We have a public speaking talk happening in the afternoon. Come join us. It's like, sounds interesting. Should give it a try. I went in. I looked at the people. I just went there to see what they do. I had absolutely no ambition to come on stage and say anything. So I was just sitting there and watching people talking. There are some in this room who were still active then. On day 1, I didn't say anything. I didn't talk to anybody. I just attended the show, just went back. But I thought, I'll come again. Next time when I saw the same board, I decided I'm going to talk this time. So I went in, and they had something called impromptu speaking. So they were giving topics, and they wanted people to come and talk. It was for 2 minutes. 2 minutes is a really, really long time. So they asked me to come and talk about some topic that they gave me. 2 minutes. I was like, okay, let's give it a go. I started, and I nailed it for 45 seconds. And after that, I was at a loss of words. I looked at the ceiling, maybe something is written there. Couldn't find anything. Looked at the floor, no words. Looked at the people. All I got from them was encouragement to stand there for another minute. Nobody said anything. They were just waiting for me to say something, maybe he will get something, They were like all well-wishers. But anyways, I found one sentence, which was, okay, I'm done. And just came out of the stage. The only good thing that day I did was that I didn't stop there. I came again next time. This time I thought, okay, let's do at least 2 minutes, and I can do it. 2 minutes is something. I fortunately was able to do those 2 minutes. And I kind of liked the overall experience. When people were coming to stage and telling what good you did, what you could improve, I thought there was a lot of learning here. And then I continuously came every single time they had the meeting. I realized that this is not enough because they are hardly meeting and you're not getting enough opportunity to talk. So I went out and searched for other clubs who do the speaking, and I found Toastmasters. Anybody knows Toastmasters here? So Toastmasters is a public speaking club. They don't toast anything. There are no brags there. They just go and toast people on stage. So you go here, you have to talk about topics, 7 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 40 minutes, they have up to 1 hour you can talk. It's a good platform to practice. So I joined them. And I was like, in those days, in a particular month, in around 35 days, I did 7 speeches. Which is like, I didn't know what had happened to me. I just wanted to come on stage and just do it. And I got an opportunity to take part in their competitions. So Toastmasters is a massive organization. They have centers in around 190 countries are there in the world, but they have 170 odd countries. They have their clubs going on. In London alone, there are around 30 to 50 clubs operating. So you have plenty of opportunity. With them, I did all that, and I thought, okay, let's do a competition. So they do competition, where everybody, all the clubs around the world, they go to the competition, they give their speech, people look at them, give them grades, and then somebody wins. If you win at the club, you go to next level, you win there, you go next level, you win there, you go national level. If you win national, you go continental level. And if you win that, you go to international speech competition, and then you become the world champion of public speaking. So that's how the competition works. It's really, really difficult competition. And I did take part in it. On my first attempt, I could do 1 to level 3. In my second attempt, I could do national level. So I was talking to the people after, I wouldn't call it beating, but there were total 1,000 plus people who took part, and out of that, the top 5 only reached the national level. So I was fortunate to be one of those people. So by this time, I thought, you know what, I've got enough credentials now, I can talk. I can go to some corporates, some more professional places where I can talk and maybe advertise myself. So I told my friends that, okay, I've started speaking, now I can go and give speeches, I can motivate people, inspire people, At this point, I didn't have my expertise because I was just talking. I was talking about anything. By this time, I even gave a workshop on how to talk about anything. So a lot of people have this challenge, they don't know what to talk about, right? So I did that. And one day I got a call. They said, oh, we heard that you do speak. Can you come and speak for our wonderful audience? I was like, of course, yes. And that's a mistake. I didn't ask them who they are. They said, okay, then this is the date, and our address is Wingfield Primary School, Greenwich, London. I was like, what? Primary school kids? Now, primary school kids, or kids of any age, are evil. You go and talk to them, they will tell you whatever is coming into their head at that point. Yes? So, I already said yes. So, I cannot say no anymore. So, I thought, okay, let's go. So, I went into this, and they said, okay, you know what, you're from India. Why don't you tell our reception kids and year 1 kids, this is like 5-year-old and 6-year-olds, tell us about India. Tell them about India. It's like, okay, we'll do that. We'll try. So I prepared something. I thought, they are kids. So let's have a lot of visuals, create pictures, globes and whatnot. And I went there and started talking to them. And I was telling them, look, this is the globe. And on this globe, here is UK. And here is India. And I was just going to tell them more about, what you have in India, etc. The one kid there, they don't raise hands, by the way. I mean, their teachers tell them to do, but they don't listen. The one kid said, yeah, I know, that's the sea in between. And the other kid said, yeah, and there are sharks in the sea. Those sharks are so big. They're bigger than Miss Bolt. And Miss Bolt was a teacher. It's like, what is this happening here? And I was like losing track of what I had to say next. So I started talking about sharks, which is the fearsome shark. I came to know it's great white shark. Kids told me. And on that day I realized, speaking is not just fulfilling and sharing your messages, it is so much fun too. So with that, today, in this talk, if this works, it's locked. So by the way, who here wants to have fun?
We do.
Everybody, right? So you're at the right place. If you know how to effectively communicate your ideas from the stage, you are here to have fun, and lots of fun. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian to do that. The byproduct that I want to talk about. So how ASC changed me. Whatever Pradeepa said today, if she was talking about it 5 years ago, I wouldn't believe that it could be me. Because I have spoken to the people on my podcast who are founders of multi-billion-dollar companies, such as Reebok. And Reebok's founder is like 80 plus. So I had a long 1 hour, 50 minutes conversation with him. All because of this. Because somebody on the way gave me an idea that you're talking so much, why don't you start a podcast? Right? And invite people and talk to them. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do it. So I started inviting people, invited 100, 95 didn't reply. But 5 who did, they changed everything. So I've spoken to founder of Reebok, founder of HCL Technology, which is like a $50 billion company, and co-founder of LinkedIn. And a lot of other people. Many of them are New York Times bestsellers. Some are founders and CEOs or whatever. So there's a lot that I've gained from that experience. I've learned so much. I've learned to read books because all of them had written some books. And before you talk to those people, if they're there, I really have to be prepared. So I read all their books. So that made another change in me, overall, in my personality. So that all happened because I decided to continue talking. And today, objective of this session is to share with you the kind of learnings that I have got over those period of time with my speaking experience, and share it with you and see and make you realize that we all have that innate ability to come on stage and talk confidently. I know it's a fear, it's a second biggest fear, even before the fear of death. That's how it has been voted. And there are reasons for it, but we'll try to figure out whether or not we can unleash the speaker that is hidden behind somewhere. Because we all have something to share with the world. We are different in some ways or the other from anybody else on this planet. So that's my goal today. And with that, let me give you a task. Who here wants to come on stage right now and tell us for 3 minutes what they had for lunch? Just show me hands. Come on. Not even one. You can. Okay, I got one at least. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's all right. I hope everybody had lunch.
We couldn't talk for 3 minutes.
Or you were waiting for the after speech.
Free food. Yeah.
Free food. Okay, great. So let's do some quiz. Because people think that, oh, you know what, speaking is not for me. It's only for the famous people, and they are good at it. You think so? Some people think that, oh, these people are born with this skill. Let's find out how many people were born with this skill. So there's a quiz for you. Here's a question. This individual, during the university years and upon completing law school, faced recurrent panic attacks and debilitating symptoms such as blurred vision, trembling when confronted with the task of public speaking. In one of the specific instances, they had to rely on someone else to read their speech due to the severity of the symptoms, making it impossible for them to deliver it themselves. Additionally, in their initial experience as a lawyer, the fear and anxiety were so overwhelming that they had to abruptly leave the courtroom. Anybody can guess who this person could be? Anybody? Sorry? Okay. Maybe you can recognize him. That's Gandhi. He's one of the best speakers the century has produced. Here you go, another one. This highly successful business person and speaker used to dread public speaking, had dyslexia, faced challenges in expressing themselves verbally, and actively sought out opportunities to confront their peers. Through perseverance and practice, they transformed them into a persuasive speaker. Who could this be? The businessman.
Warren Buffett?
Not quite. Very close. Okay, they're British. Richard Branson. Let's name one more. Remarkable lady started as a child who struggled with stuttering and had a fear of public speaking. However, her journey took a transformative turn when she delivered a memorable acceptance speech, an Oscar. That's an Oscar winner person had this issue. Who this could be? Anybody? That's Julia Roberts. One more? Interesting people? Known for their expertise in investing, has openly shared his early struggles with public speaking. He was anxious about speaking and will take unnecessarily longer route to avoid it. When he has to give a speech, he'll take longer route so that he has less time. Anybody?
Could be Warren Buffett.
That's it. Warren Buffett has only one degree in his office, Harvard, which is the course he did from Dale Carnegie's public speaking course. That's the last question for you. You will probably guess this. This renowned author celebrated her magical storytelling, has been candid about her early career experiences with public speaking. She has shared a specific incident where during the book signing event, she unexpectedly suffered a panic attack and she had to leave the stage. Thank you. So, what's special about these people? They are all famous personalities. I think almost all of them are billionaires. I don't know about Julia Roberts and Gandhi. But these people had this struggle with public speaking. But we think, some people are born with it, they're really, really good. That's not really the case. With my experience, I've spoken to so many people and I've asked these kind of questions to them. Do they feel imposter? Half of them said they do. Even after writing, there's one guy who's written 12 books, 9 of them have been New York Times bestsellers. His name is Stephen Kotler. He talks about flow and focus. You might have heard about it. And I was asking him, do you feel as an imposter? He says, sometimes I do. Right? I couldn't believe that they did. But they did. So there are people like that. So, let's find out why it is so important. We all know it is important, that's why we are in the room. And there are a few things that I just thought, okay, let's have some bullet points, discussion to why it is important, why you are here. The first of all is it helps you express yourself. You become an effective communicator. So once you've understood how to show your ideas, share your ideas with people on stage, by that time, if let's say you've mastered it, you've already improved your communication. It could be a personal communication. So next time when you're talking to your friends, your family members, you're talking in a different way. Because if you come to these ASC speeches, they evaluate every speech and they tell you different things. Now once you have gone through that, you go home and you start evaluating everybody around you. How many times this person says, how many times this person is looking into the ceiling, those kind of things. So it helps you when you are telling them something, you are actually much better. And it works at your work. There are a lot of times you will see somebody came to give a presentation in an office project. They came, they had some slides, they just went through the slides, and at the end of it, nobody knew why we were here. Have you been there? Yeah? So, they had some idea, but they didn't know how to effectively express it so that my message gets across. So those kind of things you improve when you do public speaking. Career advancement. That's a good one. There are so many things that are so subtle that you can't believe they have impact on the amount you earn. For example, when I started working, I'm a native Hindi speaker. The first proper subject textbook I studied in English was in my university. So up until then, I was studying physics, chemistry, maths, all in Hindi. So when I applied for IBM, that was my first company, I could see once I was in. At that time, we got a job, so we were so excited. We told our salary to everybody. And this is my first job. Oh, I got a job, and this is from IBM. This is how much I'm getting paid. So everybody knew in my friend circle how much I get paid, and I knew how much everybody gets paid, and I could see the difference. And I saw that there was a pattern. Many of those come from an English background. Their English was very fluent. So we're not talking public speaking here. We're just talking about normal communication. So because they were good at communication, they were getting paid more than me. And you see that not at just that level, at a higher level also, if there are two people, one is, let's say, in IT. I guess how many people are in IT here, by the way? There's quite a lot of in IT. So somebody who is just doing programming, they get some tasks from business, they do it, they do their programming, finish their work, do a great job. And there's another person who does same job as him, but he knows how to express things. So when he goes into presentation, he comes and says that, okay, this is our problem, this is how we are dealing with it, and this is the solution. That person will definitely get much higher pay than the person who is not talking, even though they have same skills. Right? It does happen. So public speaking is one such skill which increases that gap drastically. The language thing that I told you, there might be subtle difference. It was not massive difference, right? But if somebody is at a leadership position, they have that skill, then that difference increases quite a lot. So that's where I say it's great in career advancement. Are we there?
It's going to come back now.
Take some time. Influence and leadership. Adolf Hitler. Everybody knows Adolf Hitler. He said he gave 8,000 speeches in his life. 8,000. And well before the World War II, he wrote a book called Mein Kampf, which was, I think, in 30s, whatever. In that book, he wrote that if you want to reach the mass, you need to use a microphone. He knew it then, that with the effective speaking, he can change the things the way he wants. Now, the point I'm using this example is because the skill, any good skill can be used for good and bad, right? Right. Same with this. So he knew it. And so did Martin Luther King Jr. He was a storyteller, he was a speaker, and he changed the world in a good way or in a bad way. So, if you have to influence people about whatever purpose you are after, embrace all this. Study confidence. Obviously, when you're coming on stage telling people that, oh, I know this exists, you feel confident, don't you? It's it just comes, right? Social impact. This is really good. And I'll tell you how you can change the way people think about social impact. Let's say climate change. And I'll tell you my personal experience. In Malta, there was a door, like Durdle Door in UK. Anybody been to Durdle Door? Something similar they had in Malta, they call it Azure window. It's like Microsoft Azure and Windows, so they put together Azure window. So it was exactly like on the sea, you have a door sort of shape, and people will go on that, and while we have it, we can use it. So let's say this is the sea, and this is the shore, and there was a window like this. Right? So people will come walking here, they will stand here, take pictures. So you can click from here. This is all sea.
It's broken now.
30th of March 2017. So I was there in 2016. I was there. I was right there taking pictures. I still have those pictures, and I love them because it's so windy and you just feel like so free. A year later, I saw it in the news. The door is broken because of the storms that happened due to the climate change. The nature of those storms was so intense that the aftermath, the door couldn't handle it. It just collapsed. This is the kind of history of Malta. You will still see that in the postcards. It was a massive thing for them. Very cultural heritage. It's now gone. The people who went there and stood, they can't stand there anymore because it doesn't exist. That's one example of telling you that climate change is not good. Another example I can take you to, let's say I saw some dead bird on the road, and I looked carefully and I saw that the bird has some plastic in the body. Something like that. So the point here is that if I am trying to tell people there is a certain change that I want to see in the world, and if I know how to link that purpose with my stories, then I can make people remember that. And I'm sure you will now remember the Azure window for some more time. And you know that climate change is real. New opportunities and spread your message. So I'll just summarize that. When you are out there, when people know that you have something in your heart to spread the word, you get a lot of new opportunities. And I just gave example of my personal things which I've achieved out of just speaking. So yeah, you get a lot of things. So there is definitely a lot of benefits of doing public speaking. Now what is happening? The foundations. Let's find out. Some people have fear of public speaking. I'm saying that, oh, you all speakers by default. But what's going on? Let's have a look at the foundations. The history. Anybody here who was born after 1985, let's say? Oh God. You know guys, there was a time when there was no internet. We didn't have even TV 5 years before that. And we survived. How did we survive? How do you communicate now? I mean, if I have to tell my sister sitting in the next room that bring the TV volume down, I might want to send her a WhatsApp message. Please do that, right? But previously, how did we communicate? I still remember in 1992, Indian Prime Minister was assassinated. Rajiv Gandhi was his name. And we didn't have TV then. I was in India, and I come from a very, 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 very small town in India, which is 20 years behind everybody else. Right? So we got everything 20 years later. Like our first mobile phone in my town came in 2006, 7, which is very recent, right? It's very late. So yeah, I come from there, and I still remember when the news came on radio. It was like BBC Radio was telling that okay, Prime Minister has been assassinated. Da 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 da. We were sitting in a circle talking about it. Dad was saying something, Mom was saying something. They were sharing things. They were actually storytelling each other, and this is how we have been like, because we didn't have radio before. What did we do? We just sat in the night, either around the fire or just after dinner. You know, right now, what is something called, if anybody has kids, there's something called bedside stories, right? Previously, we had like stories going on every time. You didn't need a bedside story because there were so many stories going on. You're learning so much. And I'll give you an example. There is a place in Quebec City in Canada, not Quebec City, but Quebec as a state. Further up north, if you go, the temperature goes like minus 20 degrees, etc. But there is a type of way to find food in that climate where you have absolutely no food around. And how they did it? They had been doing that for thousands of years. The printing press came in, I think, 1434 or something like that in Germany. Before there was no books. So nobody wrote anything to go and read, like we can check, how to do this on Google. So they did hunting under the ice sheet, which is like up to 10 feet or even more deep. They found a pattern. So their ancestors found that every month, for an hour, because of the location of the place in Canada, is so up high near the poles, the gravitational pull is so much that the tide underneath the ice in the sea is very deep. So it goes up to like 55 to 60 feet tide. But that happens only 1 hour in a month. So what they did, they drilled a hole and they will wait for that time, the 1 hour start. And when the time comes, they just jump onto it. So I'll tell you how it looks like. Don't know how to put it. But let's say this is your sea, and you have a big ice sheet here. It's like 80 feet, something like that. And you have water. But when the tide goes down, this space becomes empty. There is nothing. But there is something here. There is a lot of food, mussels, which the people there love to eat. There is a lot of it here. What they do, they wait for that 1 hour, and then they drill up. The hole is already drilled. So they just go inside and they collect as much as they can food. They can, and then they come out. Now this practice has been those tribes are doing this for thousands of years. How did they learn it? Somebody told them. Somebody taught them in form of stories. Like when you have no food in winters, this is how you get food. That's the way people in the old days shared stories and told people how to survive, really. Yeah, long time ago. So that's your thousands of years ago. We have been telling stories to people. We have this. You still do it. I'll tell you how. In your childhood. That's interesting. So your history has public speaking. let's look at your childhood now. How much of public speaking you did when you were a kid? When the kids are born, if you look at them, they will look at you. And they will keep looking at you until you look away. Very small babies, right? They are master in body language and especially eye contact, which is another key component of speaking in public. How you connect with your audience. How's your eyes? Where are your eyes looking? You look at the floor, look at the ceiling, table, or to your audience. Making connections. So kids have that already. So that one skill on, you already have it by default. Language. When they learn how to express them. I tell you, I have a 5-year-old son. And he understood language, so he knows how to speak. He knows the body hand gestures, and he knows how to express himself. So when he is sitting and talking to me, he says, "Oh, I saw a very big, giant bus today." It's like, a giant bus, what does it mean? He actually saw a double-decker. So I saw a very giant bus today. I was like, how was it? It was starting from there up until there. It was that big. So my son is telling me everything using his hands, and when he's telling me the how important that thing is, he knows how to add the influence in his voice. So he's just not saying, "Oh, I saw a big bus that was from here till there." I could hear it in his voice. So he had that vocal variety thing, which in public speaking you will hear people saying that, use your voice effectively. If you have to tell something which you want people to touch, you just go softly. But then when you want people to be energized, you just go full on, right? That thing, kids already have it. If they are excited, you know they're excited. If they are sad, you know they're sad. They know how to express themselves. So that's skill number 2 down. So you had it from your ancestors, you had it from your childhood. Now you would say, okay, fine, get it. But what about now? The technology has taken everything from us. Yeah, you'll see a lot of blogs and videos and people are blaming technology for everything, right? Because of tech, I can't do that now. I can't focus because I have phone, so many things, beeping around on my phone. Let's have a look how good you are today. One-to-one communication. Now, picture this. You have your partner coming to you and saying that, honey, I saw there is a lot of news going on about mental health. There are more people who are depressed today than ever before. Many of them are anxious because of the issues such as childcare, work, flexibility at work. We have different sort of tensions. But previously, when we were going 5 days a week and the lockdown happened, we were stressed because lockdown. I can't go to office anymore. Now, when lockdown is open and companies are asking people to come to office 3 days, we're stressed because they're calling us back. So we find tensions everywhere, right? Agree? So the lady says, because of the lockdown is now opened, we have to go to office, so there's so much stress, child care, who will take care of the children? You know what? My friend Caroline, she and her husband, they looked really happy. I say, okay, fine. What did they do? They recently went on to a wellness retreat. And they just came from there, they learned some things. It's really nice. I think we should also go there. And the husband is like, okay, where is it? I think it's in a place somewhere called Hawaii. Some sort of island. Oh yeah, interesting. So these kind of conversations happen every day. In your houses, if somebody is trying to convince you to do something that they want, they will create a context, they will have a structure, and they will conclude it by asking what they want from you. You do that with your partners, with your kids. You do a lot with your kids. Bribe them, tell them some stories and say, if you do this, I'll do that. So we do that quite often. So we actually do communicate quite well. But the problem is that it's only one-to-one. We are very good at one-to-one communication. The fear comes when we are in public, when there are a lot of people looking at us. And that's the problem. Because we all know. So by this time, do you agree that you all have that public speaking skill in you? Yes? Yes. So that problem is solved. Okay, so you have the skill, I agree. Great. So what are the pain points? What happens that it is still a fear? We know that we can do that, we do it every day, but there is still something not nice. So there are 2 types of fear. I'm just coming to the fear of public speaking. There are 2 types of fear. One is rational fear, which is actually a fear. It's like if you have a cobra here, you should be fearful of snakes, right? Because when they spit the venom, it can travel up to 6 feet in air. So you have all reasons to be fearful of snakes when there are snakes around. But there are some people who are scared of lifts, scared of flying in the airplane, scared of driving. And I tell you, when I learned driving back in India, long time ago, my brother got a new car, and I took that car, I went out on streets, and I hit a cycle rickshaw. You know cycle rickshaw? This is some sort of vehicle. And on that, there was an old lady, 80 years old, around 80 plus. And she was coming from hospital from her regular checkup. And I just hit their vehicle, and she was down on the road. And there were two more ladies in that vehicle. They were on top of her. So I had to take her back to hospital, where she was coming from. And that was really shocking to me. I'm laughing now because she didn't die. And I could manage to get her treatment, whatever. The next day, when we took the car and everything back home from police station, everything happened, police was involved. I was in a state of shock. Will I drive the car again or not? And I asked my dad and my brother, can I take the car now? It's like, it's the second day, you just had an accident yesterday, right? The lady, if she would have been died, you don't know where you would be, right? But then they said, you know what, you go out on this road, there's nothing, you can drive it. And I did that. So I drove. And I drove the other day, and I drove. And I never had this fear. Unfortunately, many of us don't have that kind of support system. If something happens to you in your childhood, some sort of trauma or anything, you just create an image that it's always like that. And when you're a kid especially, kids are always printing into their permanent memory whatever they see, at least up until their age of 7, 8, because they're always in the theta brainwave state, if you go to the science behind it. So they're always learning. Anything that happens, it's permanent. They know it. They'll know it for the rest of their life. So any trauma that happened at the childhood, most likely you will know it for your life, and it's a trauma. It's a fear. It might be irrational. If a kid got stuck in lift, he will remember that lifts are dangerous. He will never go into lifts. It does happen, and they need like intense therapy or whatever. So that's where your irrational fears. The natural fears, there are only two fears that are natural. We are born with. Anybody knows who they are?
Darkness?
No. Well, the kid lives in darkness for 9 months. So there is no fear of darkness. But there is a fear of falling and fear of loud noises. These are the only two fears that we have been born with, which we can get rid of. All of us are not fear of loud noises, but most of us are not fearful. But we bring so many other fears in our lives that makes our life so difficult, and those are like irrational fears. And public speaking fear is one such irrational fear. I've never seen anybody dying of speaking on stage. People do faint. Sometimes they faint, but it's irrational fear. And the problem is that how do we get this? So the natural fears aside, where do you get these irrational things? It's because of the society, and some of the reasons are like so unavoidable, because when you're going out and your parents are saying, okay, don't run, don't do this, don't talk to strangers, for all good reasons, good intentions, right? But they do. But the effect of that is that the children think that they are saying, don't go to strangers, that means the strangers are not good. Or don't ask for sweets when you are at somebody else's house. That means, okay, asking is not good. Because they wouldn't understand the thing the way we understand. Because there's a massive difference between us and children. Children cannot understand your jokes. Yes. And their jokes you laugh because they are so cute in telling them. They don't make sense too, but you laugh because they're so cute when they're telling you. They're so innocent. Children don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand if you are making fun of them or you are just genuinely telling them something. So everything that you say to them, they just take it by the word value. This is what it means and this is what it is. Right? So remember when you're being sarcastic with kids. So we've been growing within such an environment wherein you had a requirement, you wanted to do something, you wanted to go pee, for example, and you were in the crowd and you suddenly say, Mama, pee! Daddy, something like that, and then you feel embarrassed and you say, oh, don't say that here. Don't. And then what children will understand is, don't express yourself when people are around. That's what they understand. You didn't want to say that, but that's how it goes. And that is how we kind of collect so much of irrational stuff over a period of time that you become fearful of irrational things. So that's your pain points. And you have peer pressure when you're kind of growing up, going into school. One kid does something nice, and one of the guy I was interviewing, and he told me this very good example. In schools, when two kids came on stage, one kid did really well. They asked him a question, he did the question, and he just went And people clapped, said, fine, good. Another kid came. Nowadays, we're like so nice to the kids who are not doing really well. And that kid comes onto the stage and he's like fumbling, he doesn't know what to say, he's kind of scared, like I did in my first public speech. And then teacher would say, oh, you're doing well, you're trying really good, you can do better. So it's just to support him, but the other kid will think, if I don't do well, I get more support. Right? And this is coming from a psychologist. That's what the children's brain work. And that's how we kind of, when we grow up, this is the environment we're growing up, and that's how we're collecting so many different fears. It's not just the public speaking, there are many other irrational things that we still are fearful of. So this is the problem. Now let's see how we can resolve it, how we can master it, right? Mastering the art of public speaking, really. Now this is not a proper workshop, so I won't be going into deep in everything, but I just got this acronym for you, courtesy ChatGPT. I just asked this, I gave it some keywords and I told it, tell me something which gives me a word about public speaking, and it made it for me. So, finding your voice. When I say finding your voice, it is when I am giving a speech. Okay, I can't show you all of this, but like finding your voice. The V is for vision. And this is when you are preparing your speech to share some idea. You first and foremost, most important thing is you need to know what is your vision. I mean, what is that you want to convey? How do you visualize the success of that particular speech? It might be a presentation in your work. It's like one example. I'm also in IT, by the way. I'm in IT and data. So I'm right now leading, I work full time as well. So I'm leading a data privacy and data security in my company. And I had to launch data governance. Now you're all in IT, how boring that is. Data governance, like you're talking about things about data, not the data, but about data. Very boring thing. So to convince the whole company to, give me your buy-in and let's do this project is a tedious task. I don't know if you guys have come across anybody who's doing governance stuff. They're like pain in your backside sometimes, right? But every time when I'm doing this job and going to a crowd, it could be my CXOs in a company, or it could be a lot of people who are just doing in IT, so like IT tech leads and stuff. I have to be very clear from the tech lead's point of view, what is he looking for and how I can benefit him, and the CXOs, how this work is beneficial for the company. So that's my goal. So that vision I have to be very clear about, and based on that I can craft stories. Because people say that, official, this is storytelling and stuff, it doesn't work in workplace. Because we have a lot of data to share, right? There's a lot of slides, you'll have some charts here, some charts going on there. You know what, if you have like 20 bullet points in 2 slides, people will not remember even one. But if you have 3 bullet points, people will remember all 3. So it's up to you to create those presentations in such a way that your message is very clear. It's very clear to you and it's very clear to the people you're presenting it to. And that's where there is something called data storytelling. So people kind of take data and create stories about it. I do it all for governance because I have to create story. I have to tell them how much of penalties you can have if you don't do your PII data, if you don't secure it, you don't encrypt it. And then that's how you kind of build stories. You need to know your vision, what you're actually trying to achieve from this. So that's your first part of your finding a voice. You need to know the objective of your speech. So the second one is know your outcomes. Okay, that's a part of it. Know your outcome and start with why. Like why you are giving that 30 minutes. Like Elon Musk says that he doesn't like meetings. He doesn't like meetings. He asks the question, can we do it without a meeting? If we can do it, let's do it. That's not a meetings. He doesn't like meetings. So start with why, have your vision. Second, organization, structure. That's where, how do you structure your talk? And I gave you an example of a conversation between a husband and wife. We all know how to structure a talk. We know a talk has a start, which should be a hook, setting the context. Then you have a body wherein, if it's a long speech, you might have 1 or 2 or 3 stories, and then there might be some points that you're trying to make with those stories. You will say them, and then at the end you will have a conclusion where if you want people to do something, you will tell them what to do. If you want something from them, you tell them what it is. So you know your outcome from your step 1. Second step, you know how to organize that stuff. And it's just like, it's very easy. We can have another session only on how to structure a talk. But in a nutshell, it's a kind of good takeoff, and then your body, and then a good landing. That's pretty much it is. Use your other things like storytelling and those techniques in it, so you got a kind of good structure. So that's the one I told you. One-to-one communication that we do that has a structure in it already. Just use that. If you are going for a speech, let's say you have to talk for 30 minutes. Say 5 minutes you do your intro, 20 minutes you do your main thing, and then 5 minutes you conclude it. Find out what kind of stories you can attach to the point that you're trying to make. Maybe 3 maximum, and just deliver it. It'll be fine. People will understand what you're trying to say. So that's a speech structure, which is very important. Takeoff, journey, landing. Very simple. I can't go into detail. I would love to. There is a lot of details in everything that I'm telling you, but time is the constraint for us right now. So once you've got your structure, you know how to deliver the thing. And when it comes to delivering your stuff, a lot of people will say, you know what, I have issues with stage. I just can't go on stage. I'll tell you one thing. There's one thing that can help you when you have this stage fright. If, let's say, you feel like going on stage gives me sweaty palms, heartbeat goes like really fast, and I'm like very nervous, I don't know what's going on, deep breathing helps. And why it does help? Most of the time, you think about it, when you are in a holiday, sitting on a beach or in a hotel on that sun bath.
Lounger.
What is it called?
Sun lounger.
Sun lounger.
Yeah.
Thank you. On that, you're relaxed. And you're relaxed, you're taking deep breaths, right? Your breathing is happening how naturally it should be from your diaphragm. But most of the day, we breathe from here. If you notice your breathing pattern, you will realize that your oxygen goes here and then you just throw it out. Goes here, throw it out. You don't go to your belly. But when you do, let's do that together. Take a deep breath. Do you know why people love smoking? Because they get to deep breathing. When they smoke, when they take it, it just goes into their belly and they just feel so nice. It's scientifically proven. One of the reasons of the addiction is you love breathing because you get oxygen into your brain. And once you're breathing from your belly, you're relaxed. And when you're relaxed, you want to talk friendly things. It's like you saw the cobra there. Do you want to think about, oh look, I got a cobra, Anthony. Or you'll say, run! Right? Because when you are in a fearful situation, your limbic brain comes into action, your reptilian brain, which only knows 3 things: fight, flight, freeze. And that is when you start breathing from here. If your reptilian brain is active, you will not be able to take deep breathing. So that means you're not relaxed. And when you're not relaxed, it's difficult to find friends. But when you're relaxed, you will see that everybody sitting on the table are here to support you. And once you have that, you know that you're in a friend zone. So there's nothing to be fearful about. So a lot of people think that a lot of people are looking at me, they are judging me, and they're waiting for me to fail. No, that's not true. Most of the audience members, they want the speaker to succeed. If, let's say, I stop talking for a second, it will make you uncomfortable. Has he forgotten? Oh God, please remember. Say what you wanted to say. Is that not true? Yeah? So, people generally, please understand this. If they are coming to listen to you, they are your friends. So your nervousness will be reduced so much if you know where you're going. Yeah? So your stage fright will go quite a lot down. Nervousness and excitement. Now this is amazing. Every time you have like the symptoms I just told, the thumping chest, the heartbeat is going fast, you're sweating, palms, and for me, sweat starts from here and it just goes down when I'm nervous. But the same thing happens, exactly the same thing happens when I'm excited. Because nervousness and excitement are exactly physiologically same things, same symptoms, no difference at all. Exactly same things. The only difference is, this I learned from one of the guys I interviewed. The only difference is nervousness is the excitement with a bad outcome. With the expectation is bad. And excitement is something that you're feeling when the outcome is good. That's the only difference. But the physiologically it's exactly the same. So every time when you're nervous, you just think that, okay, whatever is happening happens when I'm excited also. So let's assume that I'm excited. There are meditations to do that. They'll help you feel excited when actually you're nervous. And there's a big question. A lot of people say that, I'm nervous. Do breathe. Deep breathe. Deep breathe helps quite a lot when you're coming to the stage. I think Tony Robbins. Everybody knows Tony Robbins here? So he and some of the people, he's very much into physiology. So when he's on stage, there's like so much of energy. He's jumping on stage, making people jump with him, because he thinks that when you are in your full energy, you will be starting to take breathings, and you'll have a lot of oxygen going to your brain. You will be less likely to be nervous. So breathing helps a lot. Make individual connection. Now this is important when you are delivering something. There are many ways to make connections. I'll give you an example. How did I try to do that? I found out from you guys what's your background. Most of you are from IT. I know that. I gave you some examples of IT so that I can connect with you. You know that, okay, what kind of thing I'm talking about. When I'm looking at you, I'm actually looking at you. So I'm making connection. Now there are a lot of questions like, oh, what is eye contact? You know, if I keep looking at you and I'm talking, giving the entire talk, focus on you. With two problems. One, you will feel uncomfortable. Two, others will think, what are we doing here? Right? So the thumb rule of eye contact is, if you have one thought, you just share that one thought with that person and move on to another person. And then start with another thought. That's how you create eye contact and make individual connection. Because think it like this. If I have here like, how many people on online and some people here? If I'm giving a speech to 30 people, my goal is to connect and pass my message to one person. And that one person is every one of you. I'm here to give some value, things that I've learned, to one person. But that one person is every one of you. So when I'm trying to deliver, my aim is to teach one person something, right? If 30 of them get it, great. But if one gets, you still feel better, right? Okay, I gave something. So individual connection is very important. I just have this, how we differentiate that in online versus offline. Generally, when you are making connection and you're doing online speech, ideally look at the screen, look at the camera, not the screen. So that's how you make the connection. Storytelling, we talk about know your audience. VAKs are like, there are three types of people: visual people, auditory, and kinesthetic. Visual people like language such as I see the problem. Auditory people will be, listen. So they'll use the words which have more auditory sense attached to it. Listen to me, that was very loud, right? Visual people will say, it didn't look nice. So it's like, look. And the third type of people are kinesthetic people who talk more in feelings. You know, I felt the pain that person was having at the point. I feel you. Those kind of. So there are some, everybody has all of these three. It's like no one person is only visual or all the three. It's a kind of mix. So whatever you're delivering, you make sure that you use a good combination of all of these so that you connect with everybody. That's your back. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and that. And we have storytelling. We've been talking about stories. There's one thing I wanted to add. I've told you some stories about me. But there's a guy called David Phillips. He talks about the Angel's cocktail, wherein he says that these three neurotransmitters, dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins, if you can trigger them in your audience's brain, they will be very happy with your speech. And how you do them? For dopamine, you do create suspense, create curiosity. So you're going to tell them a story, and something that people are expecting, that didn't happen. Something else happened. So kind of creating, and every time you tell a story, you just feel, oh, what next? What next? What is happening, right? So when I was telling you this, maybe if I would have told you in a different way, you might think that were you standing there when it broke down? So it's a kind of curiosity angle. So create curiosity, that helps. Empathy, create empathy. So whatever I'm going through, like children example I gave. Love, connection, and trust, that's your, so if your story has these components, great, because you are able to trigger oxytocin in people. And then if you're making people fun, people laugh, then you're creating some endorphins in there. So that's how your stories should have all of that. So we talked about connection, and now we're talking about expression. That's non-verbal. So how do you really express your, I told you about the stage. If you have a big stage to take care of, this is very small, so I don't have to really move that much, but if let's say your stage is very wide versus very deep, then you might have to go to one place to address these people, while others are feeling ignored, then you have to go there. So you have to kind of walk, even though it's not very purposeful, the only purpose is to reach close to the people. But otherwise, if you're moving on stage, generally to show something, and there's a guy called Mark Bolton, he's #1 in body language, who I interviewed, and he tells me that this area of your body is called truth plane, and when you're exposing this and talking to people, that means you're trusting them. Because historically, in evolutionary biology, you protect this first. If something happens, you just go like this, right? If you hear a loud noise, you go like this. Because you know your vital organs are here, and this is where you have to protect, #1. And when you're opening it up, this is a very psychological thing, right? When you're opening it up, you're showing trust with people. So it's very important to create trust with your audience, and that's where your how do you express yourself with your non-vocals. It could be the sound, the vocal variety, and all those nitty-gritties of public speaking, which all of the evaluators can tell you if you go to ASC public speaking session. Right. Okay, so that's your verbal. So that makes your voice 7% voice, 38% tone, 58%, 55% body language. Posture gesture, body language, tone of voice, we spoke about it. Eye contact, we spoke about it. Use of space, we spoke about it. And silence, that's the pause. You need to know when to give pause. Pauses are very, very powerful. If I keep talking like this and I know that I have to talk to you for another 20 minutes, in that tone without stopping anywhere, you wouldn't like it. You'll be like, oh, what's going on? I'm not understanding anything. So wherever needed, especially in stories, when you're creating a suspense or something, use of pause is really, really effective. So that's your voice. How do you practice? Very quickly, do not remember your speeches. A lot of people do that, word by word you remember. When you remember, you're just going into a linear mode. If you forget one line, you forget everything, and you're in a very difficult situation. So rather than that, remember the points and remember the stories. Don't memorize the script. Remember your stories and key points. And it's easy to remember stories because it's your story, you're telling it. It doesn't have to be me personally, it's happened with me, but I know something I read in the newspaper. I will tell you the version which I can tell you. I will not tell you exactly how it was written, right? So it's really important to not memorize, but remember stories and know what point you're making with that story. Visualize the successful delivery. This is very important. So you can, when you are doing the practice, you can really think, how the people are going to perceive my talk. Will they get some value from it, right? What kind of questions they can ask. So if you sit relaxed for an hour or something, think about your talk. Just meditate on it. That's how I practice my talks. I just meditate on it. Think about what I have to say, what kind of questions it might trigger. That will put you at so much of ease. You don't have to memorize it. You will just come and deliver it. So that's how you kind of visualize it a little bit. And finally, be authentic and honest. This is really, really powerful. If you are giving a speech and sharing your vulnerability with people, Brené Brown's talk about vulnerability is one of the most watched TED talk. And that was the first time she actually spoke with vulnerability. She was talking about vulnerability a long time ago, but nobody was watching her until she told something that her vulnerability, when everything changed. Now everybody knows it. Consistency, keep doing it. If I would have stopped on my day one, I wouldn't be talking to you here. Very important. Some days you will bomb. It's okay. It's okay to fail. Everybody does, including the people I told you in the list initially. So that's your consistency, and that's how you master the art of being a public speaker. Great. So I'll leave you with some quotes about speaking. Not quotes, some lessons that you might remember from this session. Deep breathing makes you feel safe. You make better connections when you feel safe. Correct? Everybody gets this point? Your authenticity helps you connect with people and keep you in a safe place, which builds trust and credibility with your audience. So we can do that. We can be authentic. We can take deep breath. Stories are the primary language of your brain. We have been doing that. We've been telling stories for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and we will continue to keep doing it. People love it. People spend $200, $300 million to make a movie which is a hypothetical story, which hasn't made a single penny until it comes out in the market, and people come watch it. So it's that big risk people take on stories. Movies, big example, right? Some movies have budget up to like $500. They just make it, so invest so much money because they know people love stories. Your advertisements are all stories. You know why milk is so popular? Why people drink milk? Because years ago in America there was a drive by some advertising agency. They told people that milk is good, and they created so many stories about milk and calcium. And if you're not drinking milk, it's called Got Milk. Check it on the internet if you don't know. Got Milk. Check it tonight. You'll know why milk is so popular today. You don't need milk, by the way. After you've stopped taking mother's milk, you don't need milk. That's why I just brought it up. And finally, you are all born to be an effective public speaker. I think with that, I will conclude it, but I will tell you one thing that you all are unique. You all have a message that you should share with the world. Because Einstein also said that if you are privileged to know something, it's your duty to act and share it with the world. Now, I open the floor for any questions. Thank you very much.
Have you ever frozen in a speech, and how?
Are you saying that if you're frozen or you forgot what to say, what to do? Is that the question?
Yeah, what is the trick to getting back into the flow?
Okay, right. Yeah, so you do freeze. I have been there. I have frozen on, because why this happened, first of all, is when you are memorizing your stuff, right? So in order to not to freeze on stage, make sure that you don't memorize things, because memorization created linear events. And if something is broken there, you wouldn't remember what comes next. And as a result, you might freeze. So I think the best thing is in the preparation, when you do prepare stories rather than the sequential speech. And if at all you do, then maybe go back to the previous point that you've just made. Let's say you've just memorized it and you know it, and you've forgotten something, you froze. Then go back to the one step back. Sorry, I didn't get you. Say again?
No, it's just an echo. You can go ahead.
Oh, it's just an echo. Yeah, so repeat the same thing where you've frozen. Chances are that your brain can call it back, and then you might be on the flow. But the best tip for me is to not memorize your speeches. You will never be freezing on stage. And trust that people around are your friends. They want you to succeed. They don't want you to fail. Hope that helps.
Sure. Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any more questions from WebEx or from here?
Who would be the dream person for you to have an interview on your podcast?
You probably wouldn't know them.
That's it.
So there are a few guys who I really like the way they talk. One of them is the Quest Nutrition, Quest bars, protein bars. So the founder and CEO of Quest Protein Bar, his name is Tom Bilyeu. He has sold the company to somebody else now. He's doing something else. But I really like the way he speaks, so I would like to have him. I want to talk to him once. That's one name.
What is the most gratifying moment for you in your public speaking workshop experience?
Especially when I get some messages from people who I don't even know, right? And I do get sometimes messages on my channel. Or so I did a workshop, 3-hour-long workshop recently, where I went in detail of the things that I just touched upon here. And people said that, I had a eureka moment today because I told them, never tell your audience that you're nervous. And she was like, every time she goes to stage, she says, I'm just feeling a little bit nervous, but let's see how it goes. Right? When she's coming on stage, she was like, and I told her, never do that again, ever. You don't want your students to know that my teacher doesn't know. Right? If you're on stage, people have given you some sort of authority to talk, right? And if you are telling people that I'm not confident about what I'm going to talk, then you've ruined everything, really. So people will have a unconscious sympathy towards you, and that's what you're looking for. When you say, "Oh, I'm nervous," and you go on stage and it goes well, and then people say, "Oh, you did really well," so you feel better. Oh, I was safe place because I already told that I'm nervous. Now, if I'm doing well, then it's good. From my side, there's a lady who I had this interaction with, and she was like, that was life-changing. Just knowing that, don't tell. If you forgot something, a lot of people say, oh, just forgot. They don't know what you forgot. They can't read your mind. If you forgot, just move on. Talk about something else. So, a lot of time when we come on stage, we think that they know everything that we're going to say, but that's not the case. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions? If not, we can. Yes, please, Eugene.
No, just a question about how important it is to practice. Can you be a good public speaker with coming up on stage 2 or 3 times?
You can.
Or is it like an exercise that lasts in time?
There was a study done by, I think, Harvard or Stanford, one of those. They did a study and they got some players, people who were interested in playing, but they had they didn't know how to play basketball. So there were 2 groups of people. One group of people, they took them to the basketball court and they taught them, this is how you play basketball. So every instruction they were to do. This is the basket, this is how you do, this is how you run. Another group of people, they showed them basketball court, this is how the court looks like. Now you sit in a room and they did meditation with them by telling them how to play basketball. So they're just telling them and they're asking them to close their eyes and visualize that you're playing basketball, right? And if the ball comes here, what do you do? What do you do when you run, when you dribble? So they kind of learned it just by listening. And after, I think, I don't know how many days, 50 or 60 days, whatever. So they practiced and they brought these groups together. Their performance was almost equal. They learned almost equally. Now, I'm not saying don't go on stage. do go, because there are some fears that you only capture it when you are there. But if you've kind of dealt with it already, it's like you're not scared of coming on stage, you know how to do it, then you don't have to go on stage every week. Like I tell you, to be honest, this, whatever we have spoken today, I only practiced it in my mind. I didn't speak any single word before I spoke here. So I didn't do any stage practice for this. But I have this in my mind going on for so long, and I know what I need to talk, what I need to say. I'm kind of rehearsing it in my brain. So that's where you have, like, I was thinking we could do a meditation also, we didn't have time, so I just took it off. But yeah, you can actually meditate on your speeches and still execute really well.
All right, I think that's all we got time